things, by some Christians, actually, I mean all of us. Because on our worst days, and by that I mean usually low blood sugar, on our worst days, we can be impatient too, can we not? We can be frustrating to live with, annoying. We can be critical and harsh as well. We can major on lesser things. Small things become so important to us. You know why? Because what is most important becomes little to us. And that can be true of us as well. Just catch us at the wrong time when we're disappointed, discouraged, depleted, whatever. One of us can be a combination of those things. But you see, Christianity, it's not about us. And I'm not saying just live however you want. That's not what Paul is saying. Paul, by the way, is not saying, oh, it doesn't matter how you live, that's not what he's saying at all. He's saying, in spite of the motives of some, the good news of Jesus is being spread. And there will come a time, I would imagine, he is thinking to himself, when I won't be here. And there will come a time when everybody I'm writing to directly in Philippi, they won't be here either. But as long as Christ Jesus is preached, the good news, the hope of the world, the message will spread. And that's what we want to have. That's what have happened. That's what drove Paul. See, look what verse 18 says. But what does it matter? This is so fascinating to me. The important thing is that in every way, whether from false motives or true, Christ is preached. And because of this, I what? I rejoice. There's the connection to our happiness series. Yes, and I will continue to what? Rejoice. You know what makes me happy, Paul says? What makes me happier than anything is just to know God's people are emboldened and God's people are sharing the hope of Jesus with a world that is desperate and hopeless without Christ. That makes me happy. So I don't know if you're ever like this, but sometimes I just kind of get in a little bit of a funk, It's not that I'm not spending time with the Lord or whatever, but I just kind of get in a little funk. And I was sort of in that space, last week. So I don't want to psychoanalyze in myself in front of you and on video forever. But I will say that sometimes I feel not just whelmed, but overwhelmed. And you guys with me? Anybody like that? Okay, good, 4 of you. And when I feel like that, I just I can feel anxiety, grow within me. I can feel uncertainty, or I'm just tired, or I'm whatever, right? So I was feeling that way. And then we had our men's huddle on Monday. This last Monday, by the way, it was so great. And there was, 80 or 100 guys there. It was really a great time together. If you weren't there, come join us next time. It'll be even better if you're there. But I truly mean it. It's like we have fire pits, and it's just like this time, and there's smoke, and it's good. We don't throw axes, but some people have beards and cool stuff like that. And I don't know. Some people know about cars. The more I talk about it, I realize I'm not manly in these ways. But anyway, But here's what I was just kind of depleted, and then somebody, just as they were coming to the men's huddle, we sort of connected, and hey, how are you doing? And then he proceeded to share me some of his story and what had been going on the last few months. And he shared with me, not specifics, but just marriage was not in a good place, and he had done some things that jeopardized that marriage, and it sounds like maybe his wife as well. I'm not sure all the particulars or whatever, but but they're going through it. They're trying to figure things out. But he was like, but I've been taking these steps to get stronger spiritually and healthy and whatever. And he's like, Joel, I am at a totally different place than I was a few months ago, and I'm just trusting God with my marriage, and I'm fighting for it, But I really I believe that God is up to something significant, And as he's talking about this, he's literally like smiling through parts of it, And so, of course, I couldn't help it. I'm like, wow, I'm smiling. And after that encouragement, or that time, I was so encouraged. My spirits were lifted, because I was like, oh, man, we all feel this way, right, in life where, hey, is what we're doing, does it matter, am I talking to a wall, or what are we trying to do here, kind of thing. And we all have those moments, whether you're a parent or a friend or something's going on, you're whatever, and you're just like, and then we need these moments. And I would say, boy, that was a moment for me, just in a simple way where I was just refueled and wind in my sails. And I thought, you know what? Even when I don't feel great, God is on the move. God is up to something. He's using all of us. My job is just to keep trying to be faithful as much as I can to my Savior, and then let God do the rest. You feel that, right? Do you know that? Do you sense that? Do you believe that? See, Paul gets the big picture. He's like, it's not about, yes, I want people to have, he's not saying preach Christ with false motives. He's just saying, I can rejoice because Christ is preached, right? And the gospel is advancing. In fact, a few verses later, he says this, for to me, to live is what? Is Christ, and to die is gain. Like I'll be with Jesus when I die. But as long as I'm here, to me, my life is all about living for Christ was why, it was his purpose, why Paul got up in the morning was the most important thing for Paul. It's what made life for Paul, to be redundant. Living for Christ allowed Paul to face anything because it was such a big calling, such a great, significant purpose. Like, what would your letter say, by the way? Like, to me, to live is... Like, how would you phrase that? And I want us to be careful about that, right? Because we could say, to me, to live is, recreation and leisure and pleasure and fun, And I work hard so that I get 2 weeks off a year and some weekend time or whatever so that I can weed the yard. And then I do all these things. But you take away the fun and the leisure and the pleasure, man, life is meaningless. And I would say, man, your purpose is way too small, right? Or other people say, for me to live is to be strong and powerful and in control. And usually those people are afraid, but they have to be in control. But then once they don't have the ranking, once they don't have whatever the name tag that says manager or whatever, now all of a sudden their identity is threatened. And I think about this all the time. It's like there's going to come a day. I'm not a pastor or what. Like I'm just a Christian. I'm just a son of, God, and that's it, right? And that's enough, right? And I want to remind myself constantly. Or for some people, they're like, for me to live is to be morally superior than others, and to know, I don't know, the scriptures more than others, and to be a better person than others. And that's good, right? But the competitive thing, not so good. But but consequently, they walk into rooms like this, and there's something in them. There's something in them that kind of whispers like, "You're better than most of the people in this room." And so now we've got to start criticizing others and start judging others and start just having an opinion about I'm not criticizing, I'm just having an opinion. And, about others and stuff. And the problem is our hearts, we see ourselves above and we can't help but look down on others. But what we need to do is to see ourselves as lowly and look up to God. And understand that we need as much grace as anybody literally on this planet. Think about the most vile, evil, detestable person. I know we live in a culture that loves to throw out, they're like the worst person ever. What it's like, we need God's grace every bit as much as anybody. Do you believe that today? Right? And it'll keep you from looking down on others. Also, it's true. Or here's maybe the most common one. For me to live is my friends and my family. And I would say, your friends are important, and love your neighbors yourself, and your family is, boy, you want to sacrifice and you want to take care of and support and provide, and that's loving and all those kinds of things. But what happens when your family is taken away or friends are taken away or you move away and you're like, well, we're still friends because we connect on Facebook, but actually, anyway, so yeah, you are friends, but it's just different now. It is, right? Or what happens when somebody in your family, a parent, a loved one, whatever, a spouse, and they're lying in a casket? Is your life over? Christian, your life is not over. Your life is not over. Make your life about Christ. Love people well, serve them, care for them, but don't make your life about others. Make your life for Christ and live it for others. Does that make sense? All right? Unto others. So understand what your purpose is. Make sure it's big. I love what the great evangelist and preacher D.L. Moody said. He said this: our greatest fear should not be of failure, but of succeeding at something that doesn't really matter. A lot of us, we just